The plane shuddered once, a deep metallic tremor that rolled through the cabin like a warning whispered too late, and in seat 8A a man slept with his head tilted toward the window, unaware that in a few minutes the weight of his past would collide with the fate of everyone on board. The cabin lights hummed softly above him, and beyond the glass the sky stretched endlessly, cold and indifferent, as if it had been waiting for this exact moment to remember who he used to be. Before the story pulls you deeper, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength hidden inside ordinary people, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support keeps stories like this alive. His name was Daniel Carter, and sleep was the only place where life stopped demanding things from him. He was 38, with a face worn older than its years, and hands marked by a life that had swung violently between extremes. One of those hands rested protectively over a small backpack on his lap, inside it a child's sweater folded too neatly, smelling faintly of laundry soap and bedtime stories. Daniel was a single father now, not by choice, not by tragedy alone, but by the slow erosion of promises that had once felt unbreakable. His daughter Emma was 6 years old and waiting at home with his sister, counting days on a calendar with crooked pencil marks until her father came back from what she thought was just another work trip. She did not know he was afraid to fly, or that every takeoff made his chest tighten with memories he worked hard to bury. Years ago, Daniel had been someone else entirely. He had flown faster than sound, higher than fear, carrying the weight of national duty on his shoulders and the quiet pride of a combat pilot in his heart. He had worn a uniform that fit like purpose itself, and he had believed in clarity, in right and wrong, in missions with clean endings. But war has a way of leaking into places it does not belong. It followed him home in fragments, in the sharp crack of a car backfiring, in the way he scanned rooftops without thinking, in the nights he woke drenched in sweat while his wife lay awake beside him pretending not to notice. Over time, the man she married faded behind walls of silence and exhaustion, and eventually she left, taking only what she could carry and leaving behind a man who could no longer recognize himself. Daniel left the military not with celebration, but with paperwork and a quiet handshake. Civilian life did not know what to do with someone trained to make life-or-death decisions in seconds, and Daniel did not know how to slow down enough to fit into it. Jobs came and went, money stayed tight, and fatherhood became the one mission he could still believe in. He packed lunches, read bedtime stories, and smiled through the ache because Emma's laugh felt like redemption. This flight was supposed to be simple, just a short trip for a contract job interview that might finally stabilize their lives. He told himself it was nothing, just another plane, another sky. When the turbulence started, it felt different from the usual bumps. The cabin grew tense in that way people recognize instinctively, the way animals sense an approaching storm. Flight attendants moved faster, smiles tighter, and the low murmur of passengers shifted from annoyance to unease. Daniel stirred but did not wake fully, his body responding before his mind, muscles tightening as if preparing for impact. Somewhere beyond the cockpit door, alarms blinked silently, and a mechanical failure unfolded with ruthless precision. An engine had lost power, and systems designed to compensate were struggling against physics and altitude. The captain's voice came over the speakers, steady but edged with something that made hearts pound faster. There was an issue, nothing to panic about yet, but they were assessing options. Then came the pause, the kind that stretches too long, followed by a question that rippled through the cabin like a dropped glass shattering on tile. The captain asked if there were any combat pilots on board who might assist, just as a precaution. It was not a plea, not yet, but it carried the weight of possibility, and possibility has a way of waking the dead. Daniel's eyes snapped open. For a moment, he did not know where he was, only that his pulse roared in his ears and his hands were gripping the armrests with white-knuckled force. The words echoed inside him, stirring memories he had locked away with deliberate care. Combat pilot. The label felt heavy, undeserved, like a uniform he no longer had the right to wear. He thought of Emma's crooked smile, of promises whispered into dark rooms, of the vow he made to always come home. Fear rose up, sharp and insistent, telling him to stay seated, to stay invisible, to let someone else be brave this time. Around him, passengers exchanged glances filled with hope and terror. A mother clutched her son closer. An elderly man closed his eyes in silent prayer. The plane shuddered again, a little harder now, and Daniel felt the familiar shift inside him, the place where fear and duty collided and forged something stronger. He remembered the sky over distant deserts, the way control could be wrested from chaos with steady hands and clear thought. He remembered the man he used to be, and the man his daughter needed him to be now. He stood slowly, heart hammering, legs steady despite the storm raging inside his chest. Every step toward the front of the plane felt like crossing a bridge between past and present, between who he was and who he had become. He did not announce himself loudly or dramatically. He simply made his way forward, eyes focused, breathing measured, offering what he had left to give. The crew recognized the look immediately, the quiet intensity of someone who had seen worse than this and survived. They guided him toward the cockpit, and as the door closed behind him, the weight of dozens of lives settled onto his shoulders once more. Inside, the air was tight with concentration and urgency. Instruments glowed, alarms chimed, and the captain briefed him quickly, efficiently, trusting experience over formalities. Daniel absorbed the information like muscle memory returning after years of neglect. He did not take control, not officially, but he offered insight, perspective, a second set of trained eyes that saw patterns others might miss. He spoke of airspeed and glide paths, of emergency procedures drilled into him until they became instinct. He spoke calmly, grounding the moment in competence rather than fear. Outside, the sky darkened, clouds rolling like bruises across the horizon. The plane descended, not plummeting but surrendering altitude with reluctant grace. Passengers felt the shift and held their breath together, a collective heartbeat suspended between hope and despair. In seat 8A, the empty space seemed to hum with the echo of the man who had sat there, the single father who had risen when asked, carrying with him the invisible weight of love and loss. Minutes stretched into eternities, but slowly, almost imperceptibly, control returned. Systems stabilized. A nearby airport cleared a runway, lights blazing like a promise on the ground. The captain adjusted course, hands steady now, confidence reinforced by the quiet presence beside him. When the wheels finally touched down, the impact was firm but safe, and the roar of the engines faded into a sound that might have been applause, or maybe just relief exhaled too loudly to contain. The cabin erupted in emotion, tears and laughter mingling in the cramped space. Strangers held hands, whispered thanks to the air, to fate, to anything listening. Daniel remained in the cockpit for a moment longer, head bowed, eyes closed, letting the adrenaline drain away. He thought of Emma again, of how he would tuck her in tonight and kiss her forehead, of how close he had come to not making it back. When he finally emerged, he did not seek attention. He walked back to his seat quietly, shoulders heavy, heart lighter than it had been in years. As passengers disembarked, many glanced at him with recognition, gratitude shining in their eyes, but Daniel kept his gaze forward. He did not need their thanks. What mattered was the phone call he would make, the voice he would hear on the other end asking if he was home yet. What mattered was the understanding settling deep within him that he was not broken beyond repair, that the parts of him shaped by hardship could still serve a purpose, could still save lives. If this story has reached into your heart, if it reminded you that ordinary people can carry extraordinary courage, please take a moment now to like this video, share it with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps these stories travel further than we ever could alone. And before this story ends, please comment below and tell us what this moment made you feel, because your words might be the light someone else needs today. That night, when Daniel finally returned home, Emma ran into his arms with unfiltered joy, and he held her tighter than ever before, breathing in the reality of her warmth and laughter. The sky had tested him one last time, asking if he was still willing to answer the call, and he had discovered that even stripped of rank and uniform, even worn down by life, the core of who he was remained unshaken. Sometimes heroism does not announce itself.